documentary that we're shooting is basically Israel-Palestine from a completely different perspective. It's the conflict as I hope it hasn't been seen before, with a sense of resolution in sight. Whether that physically is in sight or not, that resolution, I don't know. But we wanted to show that there are people out here who want a different life. And once that reaches a tipping point, who knows what can happen. But in the meantime, they're not waiting for politicians to change the world, they're changing their own worlds.
I felt it was very important to tell the story of that sort of evolved around TEDx Holy Land. TEDx Holy Land was the sort of if you like, the backdrop of bringing Palestinians and Israelis and Israeli Arabs together in a way that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And it was very inspiring and a very special moment of time that I felt it was important to share that.
Hanan said, you know, it would be a really nice idea to see if we could use some of the impetus of the ideas of these women. They're talking about ideas worth spreading within the Middle East, within a conflict zone, Israel-Palestine, and see what they're doing differently and maybe focus on this region from a perspective of future abundance, future prosperity, future peace.
And we thought the best way to do it really is through documentary. And since my wife happens to be a fantastic director, I thought what a better time to do it than having her document it all.
Are Palestinians also in danger of forgetting their heritage?
Not just because they stole our heritage. I said after they stole our land, they didn't find a...
Directing a documentary versus directing a feature was quite a different kettle of fish. I think what's different with a feature obviously is you have a stronger sense of, I don't want to say story, but narrative. With a documentary, one never quite knows what footage you're going to get, especially when we were shooting, as we were, sort of on the fly quite a bit. So it's a sense of, it could cut together maybe 200 different ways. Whereas with a movie, you've obviously got scene by scene. A scene can cut together several different ways depending on how many angles you have. With a documentary, the choices are almost infinite. So I think building a strong sense of vision after the event and figuring out what works best with your footage has been a huge challenge for me. I think we chose very consciously to focus on women's voices because, you know, we had, first of all, practically we had the privilege of being able to shoot around the TEDx Holy Land conference, which was so focused on women. Perhaps on a more deep level than that, I think women can be immense drivers of change in any part of the world. They generally run the families, they generally are more in charge of what goes into their children's minds than anybody else. And I think that makes a huge impact on future generations. And they're also generally shortchanged when it comes to education and when it comes to a voice, politically or economically. So I think it's very important for us to give women that voice that they don't always have, especially in the Middle East.
When I went around with Leah to find the right speakers for TEDx Holy Land, we wanted women who were making changes in their own lives, in their small ways and big ways, that made a difference to their families, their communities, their societies, who weren't just sitting and waiting for change to happen. They wanted to lead their own, they were proactively leading their change in their own sphere of influence.
I was lucky that I had very eloquent women to talk to, people who had really a lot to say and had developed a very succinct and intelligent way of putting that across. So for me it was an absolute joy. And the more I interviewed people, the more excited I got that we had something interesting here.
I'm Miriam Twaalfhoven. I live in London. I am a friend and big fan of Shamim and Hanan. And since Hanan started to organize TEDx Holy Land with Liat, I've been fascinated and I've wanted to support her and Liat in her effort. But I'm completely overwhelmed. I don't know the region very well, but I'm familiar with the conflict in the region, but I'm so overwhelmed by the incredible love that exists. Nobody has any solution, but people have a lot of ideas and dreams. They have a lot of common thoughts. There are a lot of common issues.
The power of these stories is infinite, really, and the ripple effect is infinite because it goes to many sort of countries, nationalities. It's universal, even though the themes are very specific to Palestine and Israel, but it's very much sort of transcends all that, because the Palestinian-Israeli issue affects everyone in the region and internationally, and has done for many years. So seeing it on film and sharing that experience and the stories of all these incredible women is very strong and very moving, and I think has a very strong place in life.
The shoot for the documentary is frenetic, to say the least. We shot it in literally a few days. As we were preparing for the TEDx conference, I had our 2 children here with us as well, so there was that element of childcare. But we got to run around the country and see some amazing places. We got to go to Masada, to Nazareth, to Bethlehem, to a number of different places. It was really moving for me to come back to this region, especially being married to a Palestinian. And I think seeing Hanan come back, seeing Hanan, working on how to give back, think about the difference she could try and make in the region, along with Liat Aronson, was wonderful. And to bring our children back here as well, and to have them see something of the world where Hanan grew up in, it meant a lot to me.
The challenges as a producer on this on the shoot for the documentary were numerous, really. It's from getting the footage to not having, a budget for equipment and crew, to trying to do things almost in a backward fashion, trying to get the score of the film, the graphics of the film, the title, everything else done almost while it's being edited. Normally it's done the other way around.
As a director, you don't go out there to change the world. You go out there to make a film. What I found with my first feature films, and I'm hoping the same is true of this documentary, is that it was really a shocking difference that the movies made to people's lives. I think why that happens as a director is because you're emotionally drawing people into a story, to a world, to people. And I think once you have emotional engagement with people, it's a whole other level of understanding what they're going through.
What I hope for this documentary is to travel internationally through festivals, through hopefully broadcasters, networks, through maybe even theatrical releases, and for really as many people to see it as possible, and to see that it's possible if we really put our minds to it. And we're all human beings. The Israelis aren't, I grew up thinking the Israelis are some devils, some monsters. I didn't even realize that they looked like us. And so it's just really to share that vision and to encourage others towards hopefully a better future for our children, for future generations.